between us. You, my Medina, a queen like Amina or Fatima, redeemer of passion. We both had compassion for the black diaspora and all its vastness. You in my plans, thinking of a master, the essence of your dance, the truth in your laughter that I wanna capture and cultivate stature. I'll be here for you till the hereafter. There's a clear path to the love inside you. My name's Rashid, it means I'm a guide to we both are driven. That's why we arrived to a place where now anything we can ride through. To tell the truth, I lied and been lied to. Seeker of a deeper ether, you don't have to hide you. Time to be in front, time to be beside you. I don't wanna move with nobody besides you.
What do you say to having one of them hell of a nights? Move it, baby. We can make it larger than life. Leave me, baby. Yeah. Need it, baby. Won't be around the bush like they do. 'Cause I see something special in you. Yeah, what do you say to having one of them hell of a nights? Move it, baby. We can make it larger than life. Leave me, baby. Yeah. Need it, baby. Won't be around the bush like they do. 'Cause I see something special in you.
In me, you see a leader like Stokely or Mamiya. The ways of a king, honorable and sincere. To get the people freed up. The soul of a rebel with his feet up. When it feel like the world about to erupt, I'ma hold you down till you see up. Optimism that we got from wisdom. We from the same tribe and we locked the rhythm to deep block the system. We did lots of living and lots of giving. A higher vibration, but it's not religion. I wanna pour into the riches of your being. We don't diss each other even when we disagree. And let's two-step to freedom and help the world see themselves in God and every human being. You everything and you happen for a reason. Your presence is a joy to be in. Yeah.
What do you say to having one of them hell of a nights?
Peace, everybody. It is the guy with the bow tie checking in with you live for another edition of Business of Benefits. We had to get it going with some comment. Everybody likes comments, so I put some comment music. But to kick us off, to my right, you have the amazing Queen Donna Dean. How you doing, Queen?
How you doing, Daryl? So good to see you, superhero with the bow tie. I was waiting to see what tie you were going to wear today.
I posted something about, let me see what I'm going to wear before I go in here. So thanks for recognizing it. And I want to say thank you to Hashtag Team Live, Hashtag Team Replay, however you consume the content. We appreciate it. Please let us know below. And thank you to our YouTube family as well as our LinkedIn family. And also to our sponsor, StreamYard, for sponsoring the show. And Donna and I met through comments on a live, I believe, or something like that. Just kind of circles intertwining. But for the people that don't know who you are, let them know who you are and your gift for the world.
Absolutely. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Donna Dean, and I am a CEO of my own company, Donna Dean Coaching and Consulting Services, and recently joined forces with a phenomenal company, incredible visionary. The company is Black-owned, and I will be taking on the role of president, which I'll talk to a little bit later. But other than owning a company and running a company, so to speak, I am a culture and a people strategist. So I come along companies, leaders and their teams to prepare them for this new work world through coaching and training and mental health services. And we'll talk about some of those other services as the conversation advances.
Perfect. And I love the website, blackowned.com. I know we had Professionally Black yesterday, and I didn't want to have you back to back kind of talking about the same thing, so I thought we kind of bring it on today. But yesterday we spoke about, the new Black Wall Street. So let's kind of open with Black Owned, because that's a brand new venture for you. How did you even get involved into that new idea and that virtual real estate?
Mm-hmm. Such a great question. First and foremost, I'm very strategic about the business ventures that I attach myself to. At this stage of my life, Daryl, it's really not about me anymore. It's really about me utilizing everything that I have to help people up the mountain, to bring unity and transformation. And so the more I spoke to the founder of the company, Quentin Anderson, it was absolutely phenomenal how our visions were so synchronized. And we were both about transformation and unity on a global scale and having a significant impact specifically in our community. Really just catalyzing and unifying our tribe, our community. for the purpose of advancement and representation and education and really taking the internet platform to a whole new level. And the list just goes on and on. And so when when two visionaries put their heads together, I always say we're better together. And when you bring brilliant people together and you synchronize those efforts, that's when magic happens. And so here we are, we're making magic, and we're building our very own Wakanda. Now, don't quote me on that because that's trademark, but we're building our very own Wakanda. And as you mentioned, Daryl, it is going to be the most valuable piece of virtual real estate on the planet, specifically building a phenomenal community for our people.
So let's talk about what the website actually is and isn't. So, because when you look at the website, there's a couple different spots to it. So what is the premise of blackowned.com for people that haven't gone there yet? And I'll put the website on the screen real quick. But for people who haven't gone there, what is the premise of blackowned.com?
Absolutely. So there's three pieces of virtual real estate. The first one is our Black Talent Hub or community. And that gives us an opportunity to create a bridge between the employer and the candidate who's interested in new job opportunities or transitioning to new career opportunities. And we go beyond just creating that fit between employers who are really about elevating their game in relation to representation and advancement of people of color. But we also are building a community where our people can network, where they can peer coach and learn from one another, and also offering some packages that will be inclusive of a retraining and an upskill training model for those individuals who say, hey, Donna, I've been out of work for over a year due to COVID. And I'm excited about this opportunity. I want to apply for it, but I don't know if my skill set is marketable. And so we're going to come alongside and provide that coaching and that training, if you will, to really support our people in transitioning into those careers. So that's one area. The second division, which is super exciting, is our Black-owned Institute. And it's basically a virtual educational platform where we are elevating the exposure that Black history is American history. And, there's several of us in the space doing it, but there's not too many of us that should be doing it. And so we are really setting out to have a great impact in the corporate space as well in that area. But that's the Institute. And then the third part of the virtual real estate, which is so super exciting, is called Skirt. And that is a virtual entertainment platform that really puts the AI technology in the hands of the artist. Let's face it, as we're emerging out of the COVID waters, Daryl, and audience out there, the entertainment industry as well is going through a complete transformation. And we're going to see some hybrid experiences, some digital conferences and conventions and concerts. And so we are providing an opportunity, as an example, for an artist to still get their wares out, say through a virtual concert experience where they can interact with their tribe. And it's going to be so exciting. Lots to come.
Oh, cool. I already saw the shirts on the website with the skirt shirts. So,
so you want one already, Daryl? You ready to order yours?
I thought it was funny just to see that because that phrase is used so commonly, and people don't really know the meaning and the usage of it. When you see it on SNL or something, they just throw it around, but it's kind of like they're doing it tongue in cheek. So awesome. So you're in that space to kind of lead, and the premise of today too is talking about mental health and leadership. And mental health has been a popular phrase lately for obvious reasons, but it should have always been. So how long, what made you get into mental health in the first place years ago?
It really was inspired out of a battle.
Okay.
Sometimes we have to go through some things to get to some things.
Mm-hmm.
And in my case, going through personal and professional battles and personal, seeing a family member of mine go from, a sophomore year in a collegiate environment to all of a sudden being diagnosed as a schizophrenic. Having a close family member, slide down the mountain and end up, getting addicted to drugs, and then all the mental health crises that came along with that.
Right.
And so some personal holding up family members through those struggles, and especially in our community, we don't talk about it. It's still a stigma and all those things. So carrying individuals sort of through those battles has always been, I've always been an advocate of mental health. And then on the professional side, coming up through the ranks in corporate America, representing Fortune 500 companies and so forth, and really having the charge of developing leaders in their teams, you find yourself, when you say I have an open door policy, at least in my case, and I'm sure a whole lot of leaders out there can attribute, if you're an empathetic leader with a high EI, and you're that, driver, but you still are that I person, meaning you're a people person, you're empathetic and compassionate. I found myself having a parade of people in and out of my office, needing to talk, needing to have conversation. And oftentimes the conversations were, I'm having a problem producing and meeting these key metrics and doing what my leader expects of me. I'm having a problem really having this training stick because I've got all these other issues and all these other problems that I just don't have the ability to solve. And neither do I feel like I can talk about it or show that part of my authentic self. And having those experiences over and over and over again, and mind you, a lot of those conversations were with leaders who were ill-equipped to handle
It happens a lot.
with their teams. Because
that happens a lot.
It happens a lot. We were taught keep the professional distance. You don't bring your problems in the work, because if you do, then you're labeled weak, and you're labeled.
Well, let's segue into that real quick. That's a good point you brought that up. That there's mental health and profits is kind of where we're going with this, and that a lot of times it was always keep it separate. And I think we kind of talked ourselves into a corner now that a lot of leaders are ill-equipped, like you said, to have those conversations. So I think about, I've come across people in my training and recruiting agents that sometimes have mental health issues. And usually it was like, oh, we can't deal with that. They got to go. It's like, oh, we can't deal with that. And I'm kind of like, well, it's still a person. If they're trusting in me enough to talk about this, maybe I got to try to level up a little bit to do that. So how does mental health affect the profits of a business? Now that we've seen the suicide rates we're having and all that on the personal level, but how does it affect the profits of a business?
Absolutely. It's absolutely staggering. Pre-COVID, all the economists had already predicted that we're going to see a loss in productivity to the tune of $1 trillion. And then you take that stat and you break it down, and $210 billion globally is attributed to depression in the workplace. And this is all what it's going to cost companies in the workplace: loss of productivity, loss of being present, feeling absent, just checked out, if you will. But the costs are so staggering that it is forcing companies to realize that we've got to step up our game. And we've got to realize that we can't take mental health and continue to stigmatize it and continue to stick it over there and act as if it has no place. It is as much of a part of that person as their head, their arms, their feet, their legs, their voice. And so we have to give mental health a voice. We have to give it the power that it deserves if we're going to really have an impact in the workplace. And
I mean, you think about it, you said that,
Go ahead, Daryl.
No, that made me think about when I was Madison Butler. She had put a post about racial issues going on at work and saying, well, I can't stop being black when I'm at work. Like, I don't come into my work and, hey, I'm all of a sudden a different color. So when you mention just the whole person, that's where I think all of these issues of let's not talk politics, let's not talk personal life, let's not talk family. All of those things are still with you no matter what. So in the black community, we held on to that very hard. We were like, family doesn't need to hear about my problems. And now that translated to business right now. So as you look at this kind of turning point, some people might hear that like, oh, focus on mental health is a buzzword. What's like an actionable thing, a leader that's trying to increase their profits, like a very actionable thing they could do to say, okay, I want to work on mental health. What can I do in my own 6-foot parameter or, radius?
Absolutely. I would say 3. It sounds simple because it really is. But 1, gather your key players, your leaders together at a table and start with creating a sense of community. And that sense of community that has to be led by your empathy and your compassion for your team, not just by checking the box and hitting the number, because we've got to step up and say we care about our teams, and if we really care about our team, we care about their mental health. So first actionable thing is get your leaders at a table and just start the conversation, and commit that mental health matters for every single person on the team. And once every single leader from the top down proclaims that as a commitment, that mental health matters for every single one of our team, and we're going to reimagine our culture to celebrate that, then that's the first step. And then the second step is start having conversations that commit to building a culture around community, around, and it's really an extension to your diversity, inclusion, and your equity. And in fact, I don't think that you can deploy D&I and equity without the mental health piece, especially post as we're coming out of the COVID water. So that's the first step. Start the conversation. And not get stuck in analysis paralysis. Oh, we can't go there because, of legality issues. Well, guess what? You already have legality issues.
And speaking of the first step in the conversation, real quick, we had Richard Riley jump in here. He said, "Amazing, Dean Conda forever." So he's made it Dean Conda instead of Wakanda.
I love that, Richard.
And Diana's saying she's here live representing Florida. And then Richard also said, "Love the approach of mental health, much needed in our community. We have to normalize the conversations in our community and in our tribes." And also, Donna said, "Great to have you here to discuss mental health in our community and business community." Oh, actually, good point from Richard we can kind of segue off to. He said, "The company has recently ignored all the current events and the toll was taken on the black employees. Now there are no black employees left. They were afraid of the mere conversation." So let's think about that when you just don't address it. I think about HR has a hard job that HR might do like a one-day training. But let's do a one-day diversity training. Let's do a one-day mental health training that kind of goes away. So for someone that's in that space, what's some ROI or changes in the business you've seen from doing continual conversations about mental health?
Absolutely. So again, I mentioned starting from the top down, and the other key word is strategy. We can't go at this thing with the shoot from the hip and hope for the best mindset. We can't go at this thing brushing it under a rug and hoping and praying that it's going to go away once everything reopens at 100%, because it's not. And so we've got to go at this thing understanding that it's not going to go away. In fact, you have employees who at a tune of 85% of employees are going to take into consideration when they do a job search, they're going to take into consideration, do you care about my mental health? You're going to have employees that you're not going to be able to retain, because if you don't have a culture that is very strategic and actionable about providing education and resources and benefits. I think the other staggering statistic is companies that have an EAP, they come and say, "Oh, that's enough." That's not enough anymore. That's a we got to do a proactive approach. That has to be a part of our lifeline, our bloodline, culture strategy. And
I agree.
You got employees that say, "Oh, 75% of the employees say, I didn't even know we had a mental health piece."
I was thinking about that. You said that people ask me, like, "I want to get an EAP." And I'm like, nobody's going to use it because you don't talk about it except for open enrollment. You say, "Hey, guys, we have an EAP. Yay." And then 6 months later, what's that? So it's very, very much continual. And then that's why Wendy had a good comment. She said that one-day trainings are performative. So people just put like I think about Starbucks, when the whole racial thing with Starbucks, they did a one day, we're going to shut down the stores to do a racial sensitivity training one day. And I'm not in Starbucks inner workings to know if it happens day by day, but I've been part of corporation where you have the one day training. So EAPs are good, but every benefit, like in my space, will benefits you to talk about them frequently. If they don't hear about it, they don't think it exists. So most leaders are probably, I would probably say, if I had to guess, are like 45 and 50 plus. So there's probably a generational issue to deal with. So how do you kind of break down the people that are all about, it's all about the output, it's all about the output and performance? How do you kind of help them shift their mindset to that there's some soft skills you're missing that'll help you supercharge your business?
I think you approach it like most things, and that's on a consultative level. It's one thing to tell a leader, this is what you need to do, this is what you should do. It's another thing to ask those leaders questions. Do you mind me asking?
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind me asking? And you go to those key metrics because let's think about it. Every leader, what are they responsible for? They're responsible for return on their investment, which equates to
Yep.
those key metrics called my employee engagement, my employees' productivity, my employees' retention, right? And so that's what they're responsible for. All their goals are broken down to meeting those key metrics. And so sometimes you got to speak their language and let's talk about those things now that we're emerging from COVID that are impacting your key metrics, your ROI, your engagement, your retention, all of those things. And do you mind me asking, where are you on that? And with my experience, talking to my clients and those that have come to me, either they don't know where to start.
Mm-hmm.
Gone are the days where you can take a performance evaluation that we've created for years and we base it just on key metrics and not include D&I. See,
Yeah.
now is the time we got to start holding our leaders accountable for culture. And part of that culture shift has to include D, I, E, and M, mental health.
Yeah,
and
Richard
so
actually put in there
once
his
you
last
start
company, they
to-
refused to approach D&I topics. They just wouldn't talk about it.
Do you mind me asking, where are you in terms of your culture strategy with regards to meeting those key metrics? Do you mind me asking, where is your employee engagement at? Do you mind me asking, are your employees engaged or are they? And when you start having those conversations and they put themselves in the shoes of their teams, that's what every leader needs to do.
Yeah.
They've got to switch the lens now. They've got to put themselves in the shoes of their teams and see the world from their team's lens.
This
And
is where
employee-
I've always kind of said that black women have a hard job in the business world because you have to deal with sexism and racism at the same time. So in this space, I feel like you might have an unfair advantage because you can understand the D&I portion, the misogyny, and all the different pieces, so you can actually put yourself in a lot of people's shoes. Because obviously the white male has nothing to worry about technically overall, but you have to think about the woman has a hard time, the black person has a hard time, the black woman, the Hispanic person. You kind of have a slightly unfair advantage. So do you see kind of a rising tide where you'll see more black women in leadership, especially when it comes to, emotional intelligence, mental health? You see a rising tide of that happening more than it is now?
I absolutely do, to those companies who are very intentional about elevating their strategy to increase representation for women of color in the workplace and also offering advancement opportunities, because talk about statistics, they're even more staggering with the number of women of color leaving the workplace. And so companies are going to have to get in front of that so that we can now compel women and women of color to come back into the workplace and demonstrate to them that we really are about not just representation, but we're serious about not just having a seat at the table, but a voice at the table. And the voice can't just be, I'm a leader and I'm driving key metrics, but the voice has to include, I'm driving culture. I'm driving reimagining this culture. And I'm going to be part of the process of getting this company culture to a point where we are ensuring that the mental health of our teams matter. I get real passionate about this topic, Daryl.
There we go. We're back. You gotta
And
love the
we're
live
back.
internet. It's like when you're watching CNN. They're like, "We lost audio. We'll go to commercial break," but there's no commercial break. So it's an interesting world we're in right now because if I think about 3 years ago, none of these things were topics. I mean, it was like he was yelling into an empty cave. If you said, "Hey, mental health or leadership needs help," a lot of it was basically just ignored. So now that it's kind of coming to the forefront, you're there at blackowned.com. You're helping in the black community, women of color, a lot of people are getting help from that. But as the folks that are outside those communities that basically said, we're not a diverse company, so we've never talked about mental health. do you see them kind of falling behind when it comes to the sales game and the growing their business? Because I worry about some of these companies that maybe don't know they're not diverse, or they don't know what they don't know. Do you see a lot of them kind of falling to the wayside in the next 5, 10 years because they're not in tune with the current culture?
Absolutely, Daryl. You know, the reality is, and this isn't a Donna thing, this is a global economist thing. If companies of every size, if they do not get on board with reimagining their culture to respond to the current marketplace, I mean, we're in a heal, we're in a need to transform this nation, to heal and transform. We can't ever, or we will never go back to what it was, because there's a whole lot of healing that has to happen. You got social unrest, you got the pandemic, you've got the reoccurring trauma that we experience. We've got people that we've lost personally. I've lost someone personally to COVID. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Millions of people unemployment, and the exasperation of all of that that has been dumped into our marketplace, not just on the employer side, but guess what? You're not going to keep customers, because if you don't demonstrate that you have a heartstring authentically for what matters to your consumers, and that's your external customer that buys what you have to offer, and it's also your internal customer, which to me is the most important. Because if you're not servicing your internal customer, your teams, your employees, with absolute conviction and authenticity, you will not win. You will not win. Let's see if we can get it back.
I'm, the internet's not liking me. We get too real, the internet starts kicking you off of it. Look, you get too real, the internet starts breaking you down. So sorry about that, guys. I don't know what happened. That was super weird.
I had some neo soul going, so if the audience is still chiming in with me, I'm like, well, we can still keep it going.
There we go. And Richard had a good comment there. The greatest key metric for any established business is culture, foundation, and employee engagement. Agreed 1,000,000%. If you have an unengaged workforce, they're not going to do anything. And I think that's where I hate that the phrase Marxism is thrown around so haphazardly nowadays, because people use it as a negative, like, well, the employees should be very much part of the business. It wouldn't exist without the employees, so they should be getting a bigger piece of the pie than years past. But old Marxism is kind of being touted as a bad thing to new Marxism, which is just treat us fairly. If you're an employee, you're going to be engaged if you see yourself making progress, or if you see I'm affecting the bottom line, or I think about the Amazon commercials where people see that's the package I wrapped up. Then Amazon's not the best at taking care of their employees, but they at least show a little bit like, hey, our employees know I did this. This is what I did. So for the people that are kind of not understanding the engagement piece, and they're small businesses, they're usually the hardest to kind of get to. What's the starting point for the small business with 10 employees that they've never had a D&I training, they've never had anything about mental health going on? I know you mentioned bringing the leaders together, but what if you're the only leader? What's the great way for them to start when it's just you and 10 employees?
I would suggest reaching out to a subject matter expert, a consultant, which is part of what I do, and there are others in the field. But reach out to a consultant, a coach. It's like anything else. If it's a road that you've never traveled, sometimes you need someone to just put the light and lead you on the way, along the way. But bring on a consultant and get that coaching. Because very, very much of what I do is I do exactly that. I come alongside of that leader, even if it's just one leader, and we start the conversation talking about the end game. And the end game is, we want to create a reimagined culture where every single person on your team's mental health matters. So now let's create the roadmap and start carving out what that looks like. So the conversations now become actionable, and that action is creating a program that includes education. For example, we've got to address there's a stigma in the workplace that exists. So
Yep.
providing educational resources, providing those employee resource groups, providing mental health first aid training, and then you start to move the needle when your teams feel, wow, these are some actionable, measurable things that I can hold on to that shows me that my employer really cares about my head as much as they
Yeah.
do their bottom line.
I think it's important to establish that, because I think about when Fitbit kind of came out, everybody got hooked on, let's do 10,000 steps. And that's still important for physical health, but everybody kept talking about it. So now that I know people might feel like we're beating a dead horse with this mental health thing, but we haven't talked about it for decades in the workforce, or centuries even. So I think it's important that we got to keep repeating it, but also recognizing that simple is just asking your employees, how are you? But actually genuinely asking that. I found myself for a while not doing that in leadership. I would just kind of go and say, hey, what's on the docket today? What do we have to get done? But just stopping and saying, like, how's your mom? What's happening with the kids? Like, those questions when it's work, I think, are better than when you see a stranger in the street and they're like, how are you today? I don't think people mean that when they ask those questions in public like that, but at work, you should actually take a second to stop and just say, hey, what's going on? How's the family? Like, really? And not just like, oh, they're fine. Like, well, tell me what they're doing. Ask a little bit deeper, because that's something I've noticed I've had agents working with me for, 5-6 years now, that I've gotten closer with because of that, asking those questions, and it helps the relationship work in the business, but also show them, hey, I care about you when you clock out, or when you're not working on something I ask you to do, you still matter. So I want to kind of end this a little bit with the fact that Black Owned is doing that for the Black community too, because we don't always have a space necessarily that's just us that's been very positive. There are some places there, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of places out there, but Black Owned, I think, is a great name just to help with that. So for the people, maybe they have melanin, maybe they don't. What's your calling or marching orders to the people that don't have melanin and want to kind of do something to help this mental health conversation in the Black community?
Absolutely. Great question. Two words, unity and transformation. We're better together. And there's already so much polarization in the world, and for good cause. But now we got to rise above that polarization, and we've got to come together, Black, brown, white, and we've got to come together in all areas. And we need more than just an ally. We need to create a sense of community on all sides that says that it's more important for us to unify for the greater good. And the greater good is that everybody wins on both sides. We all are transformed and healed, and we all build bridges. So I think someone that doesn't have the melanin, just accepting that everybody can do their part. I have certain gifts and talents, and I'm leaning in to use those gifts and talents to make a difference. I'm not a psychologist, a psychiatrist, and I'm not here to say I'm doing it. But you look at like a Jada Pinkett, you look at like a Taraji Henson, who are major influencers in the entertainment industry, and they're using their platform, their gifts, their talents to make a difference in the area of mental health, and they are bringing that awareness. And so that's what we can all do, is acknowledge that it's important and really shine the light on that awareness, and be willing to unify as one to really make a difference for the global good.
Yeah, I like the one part, because I kind of would love a day when, candidly, when Black people are in certain circles, we're like, this is a white thing to do when it's something more affluent, usually, like having a boat or getting on the yacht. I would love to have a certain day when that's not like the economic thing isn't a Black or white thing.
Yeah.
Like we shouldn't have to say, oh, we rigged that a certain way because we're poor, or we did this because of that. I would love to have where all of us kind of work together when we have cultural differences from just our history, but just economically. It's no different for me having a boat than you having a boat, Billy. And for the certain situation happening, that's what I like the Black Owned doing, helping push that conversation. And place to find. We can all find Black businesses there. So everybody there, if you have a Black business or you work with Black businesses, I would recommend the website. I'm not doing it justice, though, so I think I'm going to let Donna kind of do her shout to the masses. Tell people what to do at the website and why they should do it.
Absolutely. Please, everyone, go to blackowned.com. whether you are black, brown, or whatever you are. Go to black.com and you're going to see, number one, you have an opportunity to jump on our Black Talent Community Hub and create fits between employers and candidates. You can refer, everybody knows someone that's unemployed who needs a career transition to something else. So go on there and create your profiles, whether you're an employer or a candidate. We're going to be launching this May 25th, and we're going to have a lot of excitement after it. And then lots more to come in terms of our entertainment platform and our Black owned. If you're interested in being part of the movement, because this is a movement, there's a section on the website where you can upload your resume and give us ideas and say, hey, this is how I want to be involved. Be part of this movement to make a difference, to transform this world. That's what this is all about.
I told you do better than I would. Well, folks, thanks for watching this. Please share this with somebody that might want to get involved more at blackowned.com or that needs help with mental health. We're on different coasts of the U.S. right now, but we can still work together. And just make sure, take a chance to look at your mental health. Just think about it. As a black male, that was always kind of taboo for me to think about feelings, and my thoughts was kind of a taboo thing to me. But in leadership, I kind of realized that, and having kids and a wife made me think about it more. Like, I got to pay attention to this stuff. So, Donna, I really appreciate you, and then the audience likes it too. Diana said, this has been an insightful and encouraging conversation. Thank you, Donna, for sharing your expertise. And Richard said, love this information. Thank you, and he gave you a crown again to do the tip-off with the crown. So please share this, folks. We will catch you next week on Business with Benefits. And if you're on YouTube, share this on your Instagram, your Facebook, Twitter, all those other ones. I'm only on LinkedIn and YouTube, but we appreciate the love wherever it comes from. We will catch you guys next time on Business with Benefits. And please be safe. COVID is not gone. Please be safe. I had a friend of mine just got COVID, so please treat it like a real thing. Yes. I know it's Donna, you're in Cali right now, I believe, right?
Right.
How are you guys dealing with it recently? I know Cali went through a really bad shutdown, then it opened back up, and people are kind of up in arms. How is it going out there right now?
It's all over the map, so to speak. I think it depends on what region you're in. I'm in the La Quinta, kind of outside of the Palm Springs area. I think the closer you are to the metropolitan area, I think it gets a bit more challenging, where people just throwing their hands up and saying whatever, and kind of bypassing wisdom. So I think we're all over the map, but we are a lot further than we were. We're a lot further along than we were.
My wife threw out there, wear your mask. So please, wear your mask. Because that's the thing. I know there's a vaccine. I get that that's out there, but a vaccine is not 100%. So please, people, just a little longer, I think. I think if we do a few more months of mask wearing, or even if it's a permanent habit, just make it a habit, just like wearing a seatbelt. I don't think it's a big deal. You can get stylish ones with your name on them and a picture of it. Whatever you want to do, you can do that. So please, let's keep on doing the right things to help everybody and not just be selfish. We will catch you guys next time on Business with Benefits. Be safe, and we will catch you on the flip side.
Thank you, Daryl. You have a wonderful day.